Okay, all you YouTube assholes and anyone that listens to any kind of mainstream media to get any of their information at all. Anyone who is instructed in any way by anything that is published by the people that own all of the information publishing firms in the world, and there is only like one half of a corporation that owns everything. It's less than one, actually. It used to be 6, and I think it went down to 2, and now it's actually less than one corporation owns everything. So if you're a fucking moron enough to still be listening to the mainstream media, then you should die. I hope your children become extremely vaccinated, overly vaccinated. I think they should probably have at least 357 to like, maybe 458 vaccinations in their entire lifetimes. They should definitely brush their teeth with fluoridated toothpaste a lot. Your children should eat tons of, processed foods, food coloring, processed sugar. They should eat, hydrogenated fats. They should definitely eat artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose. They should be diagnosed with as many psychiatric ailments as possible, given as many pharmaceutical medications as possible, because they should be dead, because you're a fucking moron, and I hate your guts. And you're a moron if you listen to the mainstream media at all. So, and if you don't listen to the mainstream media, and you think that you're in the so-called freedom community, or the truth community, or whatever the fuck these fucking hired shills that are run by the fucking the government or the mafia or whatever you want to call it, that runs all of the corporations in the world, and with the comprehensive annual financial report and the tons of fucking funds and investments that all the cities and states and municipalities, states, school districts, federal government, they all have massive amounts of investments that they hide. They basically own the majority of stock in all corporations. And so, yeah, if you actually think that those people are telling you the truth at all, then you're a fucking retard. All of the people in the supposed truth community that actually think that there's a such thing as capitalism or socialism at all, and that there ever was anything like either of those, then you're a fucking retard, and you should shut the fuck up, because I'm going to literally find each one of you that think that there's a such thing as capitalism and socialism. I'm going to bash your fucking brains in with a baseball bat to shut you the fuck up, because you shouldn't have free speech, because you're totally destroying the minds of possibly hundreds of millions of people by spreading your fucking bullshit. Now I'm going to explain to you why it's fucking bullshit. Okay, so in the United States, we have something called the IRS. It's a private corporation that collects taxes or that actually regulates taxes. It's I believe the Bureau of Fiscal Service has something to do with it. The Treasury Department has something to do with it. I'm not sure exactly, because the IRS code is so fucking massive, and the U.S. code is so massive that I don't claim to know all of the the protocols of these giant behemoth institutions. But what I do know is that the IRS in the IRS code, there is a tax code, and in it all of the different taxes for different income brackets, income types, corporation types, any kind of, whether you're a person with a social security number, or a business, a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a fucking LLC, an S corporation, a C corporation, a 501c3, any of the 501c, any of the non-profit, religious institutions, etc. There's a tax for you, right? And then depending on how much income that you make, as each one of those, as an entity who is classified in each one of those classifications, your tax code may differ as a function of how much income you actually bring into your institution every year or every quarter. So, in the United States, corporations have had different tax ratios or percentages of their income being taxed, almost on a perpetually dynamic basis since the beginning of the corporate income tax. So it's never been the same more than like 1 or 2 years in a row. So it fucking changes all the time. The IRS code has gone from a fucking tiny little booklet to a gigantic fucking whole wall on a library shelf. It's a fucking ridiculous, huge monstrosity that only the biggest insane person would even ever want to fucking look at. And yeah. So people that are in the supposed truth community, or whatever the fuck these CIA shill fucking scumbags that are spreading all their bullshit on the internet are called, they actually think that capitalism exists and the United States is capitalist. And they also think that anything remotely akin to wealth distribution is socialist, and that is evil and the left-hand path, and the antithesis of all that is right and holy, according to, the Torah, the Talmud, the Bible, the fucking Quran, Theosophy, Gnosticism, Mithraism, any fucking religion ever in existence, or any philosophical system, any doctrine anywhere ever, is the antithesis. Any holy and righteous doctrine is the antithesis to wealth distribution. So, even though wealth distribution is actually practiced as a fucking basic principle of our economy in the United States of America, and also in every economy in the fucking world, especially in the rich European and Western countries. Okay? Canada, Europe, America, Japan, Australia, South Africa, and increasingly Mexico, all of South America, Asia, basically everywhere at this fucking point. Except China and Russia, and except really China. But even they are really, more like us than everybody are willing to admit, economically. So, just a cursory survey of the different taxes over the last century in the United States will tell you that people let's stop. Everyone knows that the United States was not socialist in, like, say, in 1900, right? In fact, before the Federal Reserve Bank and before all of the antitrust legislation, you could say that America used to be a lot more capitalist, and it increasingly maybe became more socialist over the last century because of, the need to regulate increasingly complicated corporate structures and manufacturing structures and manufacturing infrastructures and distribution infrastructures and increasing power in the hands of the few, and so they, antitrust legislation came about and all kinds of, but before that, there was no antitrust legislation, there was no central bank, it was all much freer, actually, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, until the Federal Reserve Act and the income tax, and all of those things that very much centralized power to control the economy in a few hands. But even after that, even after the Federal Reserve Act and the creation of the IRS, there was still quite a lot of tax being, quite a high percentage of tax of income. I'm sorry. The corporation's income was taxed to a very high percentage. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, this rant is totally off the cuff, based on years of reading and just common sense, which most people don't have. But so I haven't rehearsed this at all. Just completely completely spurred on by fucking frustration with everyone being a fucking moron constantly. But anyway, yeah, so I just remember when I was young and naive thinking that, Howard Zinn might have not been a left-wing shill, but he at least had some good information and some factual, historical data in his books. So in The People's History of the United States, which I read it in several times over the years, starting in the early 90s, in that book, he talks about the differences in corporate taxes over the years, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and how, some of the some of the corporate taxes and taxes on the rich during times of very, very, very high economic prosperity were sometimes 60, 70%. Corporate income was taxed 70%. Rich people were taxed much more heavily back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And there were plenty of jobs, by the way, after the, what was it, the Marshall Plan or whatever the fuck it was, after the Depression, Roosevelt, the big economic, the Hoover Dam project and all that stuff that got the country working again. Of course, in Europe they had to rebuild London and Dresden and Paris, several other cities, but in America we didn't have much bombing going on here, so they didn't have much to rebuild, so we had to just build random shit like dams and stuff. So just to keep everyone shutting up and tired and busy working. So they did that, but anyways, despite the fact that there was a lot more tax on the rich back then, the economy was just fine. 50s, 60s, there was always, every 7 to 10 years since the Federal Reserve Act, there was a recession or a depression. But in between those recessions and depressions, there was economic prosperity, even though there was a high corporate tax. And the corporate tax is wealth distribution, you fucking morons. It's wealth distribution, you fucking morons. There's always wealth distribution when you have a system of taxes. That's what fucking taxes are, you fucking morons. It's gray area, not black and white. Okay? Socialism isn't black and capitalism isn't white. Because there's never been pure socialism or pure capitalism ever in the history of the fucking world, first of all. Okay? So no one's ever even seen it. Then no one's ever seen anything like either of those in a pure form, ever. So shut the fuck up. If you think so. And just stop talking for several years and read some books. And shut the fuck up again, and then read some more books, and then come back and talk to me. After you've read some books. But anyway, yeah, so in spite of massive corporate taxes in the fucking, historically in the United States, the economy was just fine. So in spite of massive wealth redistribution, the economy was fine. It didn't destroy jobs. Taxing the rich never destroyed jobs. Okay, because the rich still, no matter what happens, they still need other people working for them, and that's how the fuck they get rich, you fucking morons. So even if you tax them more, it's not like they're gonna shut down and fucking go in and live in a tent underneath the fucking, on the outskirts of Beverly Hills in LA and become a homeless person. Because, oh, well, my taxes went from fucking from negative 30% to 30%, so now I'm just going to quit business now and just become homeless, because instead of making $100 million a year, I can only make, $50 million a year, so I'm just going to quit now. No, that's not what they do, you fucking morons. That's not what the fuck they do, you fucking morons. They don't just quit their businesses and become homeless because you tax them more. They just say, oh shit, it looks like I can't be a wicked, greedy fucking scumbag and make 20,000 times more than somebody else because I'm a fucking greedy pig that is running numbers and being a fucking greaseball fucking mafioso fucking scumbag greaseball fucking total fucking scumbag piece of shit. and feeling so narcissistic that I feel like I should be able to earn 20,000 times more than somebody else who's actually adding something to the economy, like say a plumber or an electrician who's actually building houses and actually adding value to the fucking world. And these fucking hedge fund manager cunts that want to fucking make $20,000 more than a plumber every year, or maybe 100,000 times more than a plumber, so they could. These fucking hedge fund managers and these fucking scumbag bankers and shit that could live 100,000 lives of a plumber. They could have 100,000 houses, 100,000 pickup trucks, 100,000 fucking vans full of tools. They could live a plumber's life 100,000 times over. And people in the United States actually think that this is okay. People in the United States actually think that it is okay that Tom Brady can make 20,000 times more than a tradesman because he can throw a football well and he's handsome. People in the United States think that movie stars and rock stars and politicians and just rich corporate executives should be able to make many thousands of times more than other people. When historically, even as recently as 100 years ago, the richest person only made about 40 times more than what the poorest person made. Now it's like fucking 400,000. It's fucking retardedly ridiculous how much more money. And that's called wealth distribution, you fucking morons. That's called we pimps that pimped out all of the scientists over the years and got all of the intellectual property, and through mathematical chicanery and all kinds of fucking sophistry wrote laws and financial regulations so that we could become richer and so that the numbers would work for us and make us richer and richer. We pimped out all of the scientists and got all the intellectual property so that we own, even though we don't know how to do any of the science and engineering, we own it all. And we get to make 20,000 times more than the engineer that actually is making all the computers and all the equipment that allow us to be hedge fund managers. And you fucking retards, actually, you don't think that that's wealth distribution? That's called wealth distribution to a bunch of fucking greasy pigs. That's what that's called. That's wealth distribution. It's just distribution to the few as opposed to the many. It's still contrived. It's still controlled. There's nothing natural about it, except unless you want to say that it's natural Darwinian selection for a bunch of greaseball pimp fucking scumbags who are involved in international sex trafficking and fucking and all kinds of drug dealing, gun running, blackmail, bribery, just a giant global mafia of bankers and fucking corporate executives and other fucking scumbags and all of their minions running the fucking world. And you think that that's fucking, you think, and that they get all of the resources, even though their engineers created robots to do half the work for them at this point. They don't even have to pay people anymore. Instead of actually divvying up those gains and saying as a society we've all technologically advanced to the point where we can all take a break a little bit and we don't have to work as much because we have robots working for us. Instead, they're making us work more, firing the other half of the fucking people, they're making one half of the population work fucking 50 hours a week to survive. Then they're making the other half of the population fucking unemployed. Instead of actually taking those gains from the creation of all these robots and outsourcing, the gains from outsourcing as well, and making it so everybody works 25 hours a week, which is what they do in other civilized countries. But in America, the world's largest penal colony, full of fucking, criminals and, basically wards of the state who are fucking too retarded to even care about their own destiny. In America, they force husbands and wives to work 50 hours apiece and never see their kids, and they're in complete wage slavery, so that all they can afford is fucking food, shelter, clothing, and transportation to and from work. And they never fucking see their kids. And this is what you call and you think that this isn't wealth distribution. You think this is a natural. You think this was a natural thing that just happened by the invisible hand. It's called a fucking small mafia of fucking scumbag pimps running the fucking world, you morons. It's not capitalism at all. Nor could capitalism ever exist. Okay? And then now we have socialism, which is actually an overt, friendly, as opposed to anti-social. It's social, so it's a friendly, humanitarian distribution program for the people, right? So you have a group of people who have agreed to live in a sovereign country. Let's call it Venezuela. They all live inside of a border. We're Venezuelans. We speak Spanish. We have a culture here. We have certain regional dishes that we make, food, wine, different things different raw materials that we harvest, and different stuff that we produce. And so we're like a culture here, and we're called Venezuela. And we pool our resources because we're friends, right? We're a community. And we have a government. We have a representative government that represents our interests. Who, we still give them more money than we have, because they're still, pigs. And there's always pigs that happen in socialism, which is why, again, it's not pure socialism, but it's still more overtly socialist and more social, and as opposed to anti-socialist, like the United States is. Where we live in an anti-socialist, because an anti-socialism has never actually been defined. Marx didn't define it. None of the other famous, Adam Smith didn't define it. None of the famous economists defined anti-socialism. But anti-socialism is actually almost what 95% of the world is actually fucking operating under right now, is anti-socialism. Where there's a huge antisocial group of fucking pimps at the top being totally antisocial and being totally predatory. That's called anti-socialism. But let's get back to Venezuela, where you've got, people having their common gains, their common gains put into projects. So each person is taxed, and those taxes actually go toward programs to make sure that every single person has some sort of modicum of ability to survive, as long as they're working, and as long as they're reaching out for some sort of social assistance. And when you actually look at the amount of people that are actually working in socialist countries, people aren't sitting around fucking on their asses in their underwear, and they haven't changed their underwear in 3 weeks because they're on the fucking dole. That's not what socialist countries look like. Switzerland, fucking Sweden, Finland, Norway, these are socialist countries, you fucking morons. And the people there don't sit around in their asses all day in their fucking underwear, picking their ass in fucking wife beaters and dirty tighty whities, fucking smelling on their fucking gross, saggy furniture, watching their fucking dumb ass fucking sitcoms like we do in America. They don't do that in those countries. I'm sure there's some fucking dumbasses that watch too much TV in all of those countries, but for the most part, there just isn't the amount of ignorant fucking scumbag morons in those countries as there is in America. And they pay a lot of taxes, but they also have a fairly decent standard of living and cost of living, so that it doesn't matter if you make $750 an hour and pay half of it in taxes, you're still making $325 an hour, you fucking moron. But if you only make minimum wage in the United States and you're only making fucking $10 an hour and you have to pay, 2% of it in taxes, then you're only making $8 an hour, you fucking moron. So how much taxes that you have to pay, in percentage-wise, doesn't fucking matter. That's not the only factor that you have to take into consideration when you're talking about how much money and what your standard of living is. Standard of living is how much money does it cost for you to live, and how much money are you bringing into your home, and do you have any savings? But all I know is in America there's no savings. There's negative savings. Everybody's in debt. There's what I heard the other day. Millions of people have defaulted on their car loans. Like 10 million fucking people have defaulted on their car loans in America. America is a fucking shithole of poverty and debt. And so I don't know about socialism, or I don't know about this, but I know that this country has definitely distributed all of its wealth to the fucking grimy fucking pimps that run everything at the top. So it's so annoying to listen to fucking people talk about socialism and capitalism, and it's just go back to first principles. First principles. Just go back to science, or just go back to like first principles. What is money? Money is a medium of exchange. It's a marker of wealth. You assign a certain amount. I'm willing to work 2 hours to get that widget. So that widget, if I'm making $25 an hour, I'm willing to pay $50 for that widget. Right? How much is it worth to you? That's the element of capitalism in our economy, where you barter with somebody. Nah, I don't want to pay $20 for that. I only think that's worth $15. Okay, I don't want to pay $20,000 for that car. I think that it's only worth $17,000 to me. Okay, that's capitalism, right? Where the consumer and the manufacturer dicker over the price of something, right? There's a capitalistic element in that, right? But if all of the prices are dictated by a mafia of fucking scumbags that price fix through oligopolizing everything, then you definitely don't have capitalism. And people who think that there's capitalism, I'm literally going to run around. I'm going to find all of you one by one and smash your faces in with a baseball bat. Because I'm tired of listening to your fucking inane bullshit talking about how you think America is capitalist. Because it isn't. It's not even close to being capitalist at all. Not even in any tiny way at all. Yeah, but anyways, I'm sorry, I digressed. First principles. Money. What is it? Yeah, money. Medium of exchange. People produce things. There's, the blacksmith and the, let's go back a couple hundred years to where the economy was more simple. There were no divisions among people. Everybody basically, there was no Republicans and Democrats. There was no gays and non-gays. There was none of these defined divisions, and there might have been Protestants and Catholics and maybe a couple divisions. But nowadays, this day and age, there's fucking dozens of divisions so that no one can be friends anymore. Not one. Every single individual on this planet has something fundamental not in common with the next guy. Whereas 200 years ago, 300 years ago, everyone knew that they had a farm, or they had there was a hatter, there was a shoemaker, there was a fucking blacksmith, there was all these people, artisans, craftsmen, carpenters, whatever. And they all knew that they needed each other's shit. And they knew they needed each other, and they had that in common, and and it was just there was nothing to disagree about. They knew that winter was coming, so they better share with each other and, not make enemies, or else they were going to be counted out of the economy. And they all knew that so that's a little communist almost. Uh-oh! Are you telling me that Victorian America and colonial America was communist? Yes, I am. I'm telling you that in places like Massachusetts, that in small towns in Massachusetts, that people shared resources. And that they, for their own social good, decided not to be totally antisocial and conniving toward the next guy. And they all, put a very, very tight lid on their conniving, opportunistic sides, so that they could function in their communities without being ostracized and having everyone think that they were a fucking shyster fucking kike, fucking scumbag, greaseball piece of fucking rotten fucking scum that was gonna constantly grift everyone in the fucking town. You know? And so, money allowed them to exchange all the things that they needed to exchange in a social way. You know? So there are infinite ways to distribute the wealth. I mean, who says that a cup is worth more than a pot or a fucking diamond ring or a bale of hay is more than a fucking cow or whatever? It's like, well, how long can a cow sustain you? How long can a bale of hay sustain the cow? I mean, all that shit gets worked out from experience, how much each item is worth, right? And it gets worked out through sheer utility, right? The utility of each item and its durability and its temporal existence, right? So if it only lasts for a day, it's probably not worth even close to a day's work, right? Because it's only a fraction of what you need every day. It's one of the many items that you need in one day. And if some item that you buy only lasts one day, it's probably only worth about 5 minutes of your labor. But if it lasts 20 years, then it might be worth maybe a few weeks of your labor, or maybe even half a year of your labor, or maybe even a whole year of your labor if it's going to last you 20 years and be some extremely valuable piece of equipment that you need to make money, like a plow or a couple of horses or something like that, And so those things get worked out by actual common sense and by utility and things like that. But what we have in America is nothing close to market-driven wealth assignment and value assignment to different items in our economy. The people that set value in our economy are fucking greaseball, pimp, fucking scumbag, gross fucking kike, greaseball, fucking pieces of rotten fucking scum pimps that run everything. Okay? It's not common sense or the invisible hand or anything like that that makes prices of houses way fucking unaccessible to like 50% of the population. There's only, like, at this point, there's only fucking 30% of there's probably actually only about 10% of the population of America that can actually afford a house without going fucking deep into debt at this point in America. So we in America are not even being given food and shelter. We're not even allowed, able, despite the fact that we're creating everybody else's food and shelter. We're building everybody's houses and flipping everybody's burgers and washing everybody's cars, but we can't own a car or a house or even go out to eat. The people that are, right, fucking 80% of us, okay, without going into fucking severe debt. And that's done by design by the fucking scumbag, pimp, fucking scum that control all of the shit. Okay? So, stop fucking talking about socialism and capitalism until you read a few books, or I will come find you and bash your fucking brains in with a baseball bat. Because you're destroying the mind, you're destroying the zeitgeist of humanity by spreading your fucking vile, evil bullshit. I will fucking literally smash your fucking skull into thousands of pieces and turn your fucking head into a bloody pile of blob on the fucking floor if you don't stop talking about socialism and capitalism and reinvent a new word like maybe anti-socialism. Go fuck yourselves.